All right, guys, so we got to talk about the hard bigotry of no expectations that we see all too often in a society that is becoming less and less and less meritocratic. Okay, meritocracy doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is why our society is falling off of a cliff. We're lowering standards across the board for all professions because apparently there's some people who, according to the liberals, just simply aren't, intellectually equipped to pass standardized tests. So therefore, they're trying to rid standardized tests. And this time, what is happening is that we have a D.C. city council, right, Washington, D.C. They're considering getting rid of the exam to become a social worker because apparently too many black people are failing the exam. No, I'm not making this up. This is a real story. And again, we should be ashamed to live in a society where we're even considering lowering standards because one group of people who happen to, be black can't pass the exam. Take a look.
Nurses, pharmacists, even barbers have to pass tests to work in D.C., but the D.C. Council is considering doing away with the exam requirement for certain types of social workers over concerns of racial bias.
Yeah, the move comes as the nation grapples with a shortage of social workers. Our investigative reporter Ted Oberg and the News 4 I-team have been digging into this debate. Ted, what's at stake here?
Yeah, hey, Jim and Unn, social workers address the needs of our city's most vulnerable neighbors. And everyone we spoke with agrees it's important to make sure they are qualified to do that. But critics and now a D.C. council member say the test that's long been used to determine that readiness is holding too many people of color back from the communities that need the help the most. On Catholic University's campus.
And I want to hear from each group.
Graduate students like Sarah and Nestor are preparing for a career helping others.
You're going to be a social worker.
Sarah is from Southeast D.C. and wants to fill a gap she discovered when she was the one who needed help.
When I searched for therapists in D.C., finding a black therapist as a woman who would see the same worldviews as me was almost nil to none.
The News 4 I-team sat down with the students, Sarah, Carla Abney, Emily Fortiz, and Raquel Ruiz, as D.C. contemplates changing what it takes to become a social worker. Only one of them, PhD candidate Carla, has taken the exam needed to become what's called a licensed graduate social worker.
It was one of the toughest things I've ever done.
She passed, but the I-team found there's growing concern that too few people who look like her are passing too.
What the exam is doing is de-diversifying the profession.
Catholic University professor Michael Massey says for years he's seen too many students of color succeed in class but fail the multiple choice licensure exam, which he says fails to capture cultural nuances.
And so we have great social workers of color who came to social work schools to serve their communities, and they're not being allowed to do it despite rigorous preparation at school.
Massey's among those who have pushed the Association of Social Work Boards, which for decades has administered the exam, to release pass rate data, and the results were stark. Between 2018 and 2021, 76% of white test takers passed the bachelor's level exam the first time, but only 60% of Asian test takers did, followed by 53% of Hispanic applicants, and only 33% of black test takers passed that first time.
It's easy to say, you could possibly blame the test takers, but I think accountability has to be taken of how the exam is structured.
Now Councilman Robert White is behind a bill that would eliminate the exam for entry and master's level licensure applicants whose work would still have to be supervised by more experienced social workers.
We will not sort of release unqualified people onto the masses. But this exam is not a proven method of qualification.
After Illinois eliminated their test 2 years ago, that state saw nearly 3,000 social workers licensed the following year. White says he hopes doing so here will help fill widespread vacancies in schools and social services. Why not fix the exam?
There is no evidence that this exam, passing this exam, results in better practitioners.
Anna Glow Boone, executive director of the Consortium for Child Welfare and head of the Social Workers Unite DC Coalition, says more research is needed before tossing out this exam. She notes 85% of DC graduate applicants eventually pass it.
The exam, the social work exam, is not the problem.
Boone says DC could allow social workers to work with a provisional license while they take the test again. And she says city leaders should focus on retaining current social workers instead of weakening the requirements to become one.
We won't know if these folk who get licensed without passing or demonstrating basic competencies, if they will engage in safe, competent, ethical, responsible practice.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? I would love to know which questions on this exam are racist, right? What questions are racist, okay? Because for the life of me, I can't figure out what these people mean when they say that there are questions on the exam that I guess are not culturally sensitive, okay? Like, I'm not sure exactly, what do you mean? Like, what question can you ask that white people, because they're white, are going to do better at than black people? And are there really that many questions on the exam that explains a difference like we're seeing on this exam in regards to pass rate, where you have about a third of black people passing it? Okay, so 2/3 of black people failing, and about 70% of whites, they pass it. 60% of Asians pass it. Over 50% of Latinos pass it. But black people all the way at the bottom at 33%. Which questions explain this? Right? I want to see the questions. Okay? Seriously. Okay? It's like, how do you frame questions so that black people can pass? Right? Do you got to ask questions like, how many Raekwons does it take to screw in a light bulb? Right? I'm not sure exactly what a social work exam would be, but I can imagine it's probably not that hard, right? It's probably not that difficult, okay? I am somebody that, when I first got into the financial services industry, I had to take an exam in order to become a licensed investment professional, right? And as a black person, I couldn't think of any questions on that test that I would have understood better had my skin color been different, right? But you know what I did do is I just studied, right? I studied really hard and I took the exam seriously. I didn't procrastinate. I put in the work and I passed, right? Why is it that we have such low expectations for black people when it comes to standardized tests? I don't understand. I don't get it. It's almost as if these people who claim to want to help black people actually want to embarrass black people, because to me, this is embarrassing, right? We're talking about social work here, okay? We're not talking about going to medical school, law school. We're not talking about anything that, in my opinion, I think is probably more intellectually challenging. Again, I'm not saying that social work is not intellectually challenging. It probably is, okay? The test is probably not super easy to pass, but at the same time, again, we're not talking about something that, in my opinion, should be too hard to pass, okay? There shouldn't be this type of disparity unless it just so happens that there's a certain group of people that just tend to study less. They tend to put in less work, and therefore, they're passing at lower rates, okay? I'm just saying, that's the only thing I can think of. What you don't do is that you don't lower standards. You don't lower the standards because one group of people can't pass it. If it just so happens that they can't pass it, then it is what it is. And it's especially crazy considering how these are the same people that will claim that, hey, we need to replace police officers with social workers because police officers aren't trained as well as social workers at handling certain situations. Now they want to basically lower standards for social workers, the people that they want to replace police officers. It's amazing how that works, right? It's almost as if they just want to get rid of standards, period, right? They just want to eliminate meritocracy from this society. Again, you have, states like the state of Oregon that has eliminated standardized tests and requirements for kids to graduate high school because apparently, again, black people don't pass at the same rates as others. Oh, well, it's holding black people back. Therefore, we need to eliminate standards for everybody. Instead of, again, encouraging black people to perform better. Saying, no, we're going to hold you to the same standard we're holding everybody else. The test is here for a reason. We had the test here for a reason. You got to pass the test. We're not going to lower the standards for anybody. Study harder, work harder, Nah, right? We're just going to eliminate it. Which again, it does not result in what these people think it results in. You will have less qualified individuals. And the qualified black people that actually did work hard, that deserve to be in their positions, are going to be questioned, right? Their credentials are going to be questioned because people are going to automatically think that because they're black, oh, well, you don't deserve this, right? You don't deserve to be a black doctor. You're not a real doctor because you're black. And obviously they lower the standards for you because you're black, right? Because we all know black people can't perform as well, right? Oh, you're not a good lawyer because you're black. You're not a good financial advisor because you're black. They lowered the standards for you. Any black person that actually earns the position that they're in, that performs to the same level or higher than his peers, is going to be looked at in question in regards to his credentials because of this lowering of standards. Because of these low standards that liberals and progressives have for black people, it really hurts black people that really are qualified to be in these positions. I'm pretty sure there are plenty qualified black social workers out there that can pass this test and perform at the same level as everybody else. And that is what you should focus on, getting those people into the profession. Because again, if you can't pass this low test, okay, if you can't, perform at the same level as everybody else, then maybe you're not cut out for it. Radical idea, right? Meritocracy, radical idea in 2023. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.